Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but we're going to give a shout out to every one of our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. I'm watching you. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies, and I highly recommend you check them out. So listen to our shout outs. Only takes 3 minutes. Then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the sports, or your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's history and your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Make sure you check them out today. vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com, and their team will have you creating world-class content in seconds, whether it's a social media post to celebrate a victory or an entire newsletter that shares all the great things your program's doing with your community. The Gipper team will have you up and running in no time. It's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. You've heard me say before, Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results, communication. Their student athlete eligibility and clearance platform alone is something you'll be on every day. Go to homecampus.com to get started. That's it, homecampus.com. We also want to thank our good friends at Snap Raise. If you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results, well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Coaches loved it. Parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. It's snapraise.com. We also want to say thank you to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools. Our student athletes love the videos. Our parents love the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant athletic director, along with thousands of others, got his master's at Ohio University, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, totally online, just 20 months. And while he completed his master's degree, he also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA for more information. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com to schedule that live web demo today. And we want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown's the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. And whether it's more support, more security, or more customization, the Hometown team is going to help you set up and sell online tickets for your events, not just athletic events, but things like school plays, concerts, dances, even graduation. Go to hometownticketing.com for more information. It's digital ticketing that offers more. And we'd like to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. At my school, we use surveys for just about everything, kids, coaches, parents. And here's the cool thing. The information that came back was almost always over the top positive, which was incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with, let's say, a frustrated parent or a student athlete. But the survey also connects you to those people you're already hearing from. Those squeaky wheel parents lets you hear their issues and hopefully address them. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to Iowa today, and we're going to be visiting with Brent Cook. Brent's a certified master athletic administrator, has a tremendous background as a coach, as a leader, and he's the director of athletics at Dubuque Senior High School. Obviously, that's in Dubuque, Iowa. Brent, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no, absolutely. Appreciate you sharing. For our listeners, we're recording this on January 16th, so it's going to be pretty timely when you're listening to it. Um, it's cold in Iowa. It's even cold in Florida. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. Brent, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up, maybe take us up through your own college days, and then we'll take a break. But what's the Brent Cook origin story?
All right, sounds good. Well, I'm a product of two teachers. My dad was a teacher and a coach and an athletic director in Iowa the whole time. My mom started out in education and ended up in another Iowa field, a Pioneer Hybrid seed corn company. So we've got Iowa roots all the way around. But had a few stops when I was a younger kid, but basically grew up in Rhinebeck, Iowa, a little burg, about 1,600 people. In central northeast Iowa, I guess would classify as. Grew up there, played four sports in high school, and that's the unique thing about Iowa is that we have summer baseball and summer softball. We're the only state that does that, so we can play four sports, and because of that, we get 5 seasons of baseball. So you get the eighth grade year, and then you get the year after you've graduated too. So it's a couple of unique things there. So I played baseball, football, golf, and basketball growing up. Graduated with all of 36 classmates from my high school. So not the biggest of schools, even today's standards, that's still pretty small. I graduated in 1988 from high school, and that was the last year of Rhinebeck High School and the first year of Gladbrook Rhinebeck. We joined sports that year with another small town, and they still exist today as Gladbrook Rhinebeck. So that was my time growing up, and then I went to college at the University of Northern Iowa in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Started out in the accounting world. That lasted all of through macroeconomics, which is the first semester of accounting, and went to that closely related field of science education. So that's where I ended up getting my bachelor's degree from the University of Northern Iowa.
Wow. Appreciate you sharing that. I want to go back to, that small town. I think many people, at least me, you hear Iowa and you're thinking, field of dreams and corn and small
Mhm.
town. Obviously, you went to a small high school.
Yeah.
What are some of the, I'm going to say, formulative memories or moments that you can look back on now and say, hey, that was a big deal for me. You might not have realized it then, but anything come to mind?
Well, the first one probably is an easy one. Having your dad for a teacher and a coach, I played baseball for him, has its pluses and minuses. So, one plus that you get to experience that with your family. Sometimes the negatives are the kids, even in small schools, maybe more so in small schools, don't you may not have as many friends because they know you're the coach's kid or something like that. So that has a little bit. So that always stuck with me. But I think we navigated that pretty well growing up. But I think the small school aspects, and this is probably true of many small schools, wherever they're from, is events are town events. So whether it's the football game, whether it's the basketball game, and in that school and at that time, we played girl boy varsity doubleheaders on Tuesdays and Friday nights. So it was an event, and the town came and they filled the gym, or they filled, people were stacked up next to the rope on the football field, and it just this is what you did. That was the entertainment. There wasn't a movie theater in town. There wasn't the school activities were that, and even band concerts and plays and musicals. It was a thing that everybody went to, even if you didn't have kids involved. So that's the nice thing about a small uh, town like that is that everybody's connected, and you know everybody, and that has good things and bad things. Like I said, it was hard for me to get in trouble because they were certainly going to make a phone call to my parents, that type of thing. But it's just having a close knit group of people. one of my best friends from high school. He's in Arkansas. I'm here. We hardly see each other, but when we do see each other, it's like we haven't. It was like we saw each other yesterday. And so it's awesome that we've been, even though you don't see those people very often, it's like you've never left. So that's the great part about a small school atmosphere and the town camaraderie.
Oh no, absolutely. I grew up in a smaller town, but it was a big high school. We drew from a large area. But my first head coaching job was at a small school in Oregon. We had 100 kids in the high school. I was the
Mm.
football coach, and I remember, our first game. It's halftime, and you're absolutely right. The headlights, surrounding the
Right.
field, and the
Yeah.
whole town. We're charging into the locker room, all 22 players on my team. And three of my players come up. They go, Coach, we got to go. I go, what do you mean you got to go? They go, we got to play in the band. And it's like,
Yeah.
what? So, and they did. They went up, played the band, then they came in and we did our halftime stuff. But it's a
Yeah.
great experience. I wish every coach could experience something like that.
Yeah,
And
we had the same, and I experienced the same thing. Was in band until my sophomore year, and unless you were a varsity starter for football, you went to the halftime performance. So you're out there in your shoulder pads and your gear. The cheerleaders are in their cheer uniforms too, and it's because you had to. If you didn't have those people, you didn't have the band either. So we all did a whole bunch of things to make it work. And you look back, you're like, oh, you only had 20 people in the band. Well, just think if what we would have had if the football players and the cheerleaders weren't there. So. But that's part of
absolutely.
being in a small school. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely. And my three guys, they were all starters, so it was a learning experience for me, but it was a great experience.
Yeah.
And talking about your dad, I didn't play for my dad, but I got to coach my son. He got to play for his
Oh,
dad,
nice.
and there was a couple of times we would be driving home from practice, and I would say, "Hey, that last time I got on your ass, that was for the team." And he goes, "Yeah, Dad, I know." So it's it's a great experience, but again, you got to navigate it
Yeah. Yeah.
properly. Going to college, was it in your mind? Again, you went to science education, but were
Mhm.
you thinking, "Hey, I'm going to teach, I'm going to coach"? Obviously, you grew up in that environment. Was that a conscious thing for you? I know I'm going to coach.
It actually was a conscious decision to not do that. My wife reminds me of this often. That when I met her at college, and I she remembers me saying this. I don't remember it though. That I told her that I didn't want to be a coach because of how much time my dad was away, and it was again, he only worked in small schools, so he was a social studies and American government teacher, and then on top of that, he was a assistant football coach in middle school, and then he had lots of different jobs, and baseball was the one that I did, as I mentioned. But so he was always active all year long too. So he was never had an off time. And then in the summer, he worked in the cornfields to make extra money for all of us because that's what you do in Iowa. And so I apparently told my wife I was not going to do that. Well, we went to Illinois. So I left Iowa with not a coaching certification. I just had my science teaching degree. Went to Illinois for our first jobs. Found out that you only have to have a teaching degree to be a coach in Illinois. And then the rest is history, as they say. So I started out in some small stuff. So it took me a little while to get there, and especially the AD route. I became an AD at a kind of pretty young age in a small school in Illinois. And again, it just evolved with that. But yeah, my wife likes to point out that I told her I wasn't going to do this, and then here we are, 28 years later as an AD. So
Well, I'm sure, as all good husbands will, you acknowledge that even though you don't remember it, she's right.
she
Okay.
is correct. I'm certain of that. Absolutely.
Hey, let's go and take our first break. For our listeners, we're visiting today with Brent Cook. He's a certified master athletic administrator, and he's the director of athletics at Dubuque Senior High School in Dubuque, Iowa. We're coming back with more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support of the podcast. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. Whether it's a wall mount unit or a floor console, they're a great way to tell your school's unique history while you're bragging about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast, vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and their team will have you creating world-class content for your school's social media site in seconds. Whether it's a social media post to celebrate a big victory or an entire newsletter to share all the great things that you're doing with your stakeholders, the Gipper team is going to have you up and running in no time. As I like to say, it's so easy, even I can do it. Gipper.com is the website. It's used and trusted by over 20,000 high school and college programs. It's professional graphic design made simple. Go to Gipper.com. You're going to be very glad you did. Gipper.com.
All right, Jake. Yeah, just like to shout out that I do use Gipper here at Dubuque Senior High School. That's something I started maybe 3 years ago. I might even go back a little further. I think during the COVID pandemic, one of our coaches associations here in Iowa gave us a free pass for that time from March till the end of the year when we were not in school, so that we could celebrate kids, especially those that got lost during the pandemic. But then I've continued with it, and we use it to send out notices for our all conference or all state selections, and sometimes just for upcoming events. But I use it a lot for our Hall of Fame notifications and get a picture of those people that we're inducting into the Hall of Fame and telling a little bit about that. And likewise, I've used some touchscreen wall monitors in our building, and that's a great way to celebrate our history. A lot of things where people used to have to come into our building and see a plaque on a wall or a picture on a wall. Well, now with these touchscreens, they can also still do that and find out a little bit more about our current and our past. But then they can see it from home too, so they can sit at their computer at their house and do a little research on the school. So one of our big things here at Dubuque Senior is we have the very first Heisman Trophy. The very first Heisman Trophy winner went to school at Dubuque Senior, Jay Burwanger,
Oh, yeah.
and went to the University of Chicago. And he was the award winner in 1935. And that was actually before it was called the Heisman Trophy. It was just called the most outstanding football player, something like that. And it was the next year in 1936 that they named it after somebody at the downtown athletic club. I think John Heisman, maybe, I think if that's the right name. But anyway, he gifted his copy of the Heisman Trophy to us in honor of his high school football coach. And so in our trophy case, we have the very first Heisman Trophy sitting in our hallways and also on those touchscreens. So it's a great way for people to learn about our history, because it's a huge thing that I don't know if any other high school has one sitting in their lobby. That certainly the colleges do, and maybe some other places, but we have the number one, so that's awesome for us.
Well, what a great story, and thanks so much for sharing. How you utilize one of our sponsors. I got to ask, you're an athletic director. Dubuque's not a tiny small high school like you
Mhm.
went to. Um, how much are sometimes athletic directors who are not let's say utilizing social media as much as
Mhm.
they could, there's a worry that it's going to overwhelm them. It's going to take too much time to do the things that they want to do. um, what would be your response to that? Let's talk about the Gipper platform. How much time, how hard is it to use?
Yeah, oh, it's a simple program. Easy to upload photos and different things for backgrounds and different things. So I like to, like I mentioned, the all conference as an example. I have a background and everything's already set up as a template, and then I just go in each season and put the new name and put the new sport and whether it's first team, second team. And the really nice thing is you can put a time on it so that you can program it to go at whenever you want it to. You don't when we do college signings, we try to do, give every kid an opportunity, whether it's to a Division 3 school or a Division 1 school. We have a backdrop we put out there, and we have them do the signing at school. Well, I use Gipper in those to announce that activity, and I can do that on a Monday, even if we don't send it out till Friday. So I
Mhm.
can program it to go on Friday, and then I've got it done. I can do it at home. I can do it when I've got 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it takes. Doesn't take long. And so that's the nice thing about Gipper is you can do it immediately. You can do it for a release later on. And so that's useful. I might delve into the newsletter area. I haven't been there yet, but I know that's a new feature here recently that I'd like to start exploring as well. So, but it's a fun thing to do. People recognize it out there. They appreciate it. And what I found out when I forgot to do one for one season, mom and dad were definitely on the emails to say, "Hey, you forgot to do that."
No, you're absolutely right. It is easy. It doesn't take a lot of time, and the impact that you get with those kids, with those parents, with your
Right.
community,
Yeah.
you just can't measure how powerful it is.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And
Yeah.
for the newsletters, for you, Brent, and for our listeners, there's a lot of ADs that are using the Gipper newsletter template. One of the very best is Colin Feigley. He's the athletic director at Green Level High School,
Mm.
and that's in North Carolina. Just go on the NIAAA membership portal, Colin Feigley,
All right.
Fegley. Check him out. He does some great, great stuff. Let's
Nice.
go and jump back into the podcast. Brent, you shared in the first segment that you graduated from college and you kind of got sucked in to teaching and coaching. Share a little bit about that journey that has now brought you to Dubuque.
Yeah, I've had again, I've been in education now for we'll be coming up on 30 years in year 31. I've been an AD for 28 of those years. So that's maybe about 25 years past the normal lifespan of being an AD. Most people get smarter and move on to bigger and better things, perhaps, but it's something that I've again stumbled into. But I started out as a science teacher, physics and chemistry, and then again started working at some athletic events as a scorekeeper and a timer. And next thing you know, I was coaching tennis and volleyball. And then I started to go, I went to a different school to teach some more upper level science courses. And they said, "Oh, I have an athletic director job opening." I said, "Oh, my dad's an athletic director." And apparently that was it. That was the end of the interview for that part. It says, "Oh, you would be good at that." That's all I said was my dad was an AD, and apparently there's a genetic gene or something they must have associated with being related to an AD. So I did take that job, and again, it was at a kind of a small school like I grew up in, so I was very comfortable with that size of school, and kind of liked it. Felt like I was doing good things as the AD, and went to graduate school at Illinois State University, got my master's in education administration, and then started down the road of administrative athletic directorships and assistant principalships. So, had three different schools in Illinois: Pekin, Illinois, kind of in central Illinois by Peoria, and Smallburg and Flanagan, Illinois, and then Olympia near Bloomington Normal, Illinois. And so I had three stops there. Came back to Iowa when my wife and I started a family, and barely got across the Mississippi River and landed in DeWitt, Iowa, and spent 10 years at Central DeWitt High School, and then brought me to Dubuque Senior, where I've been now here for working on my 13th year at Dubuque Senior. So I've had that kind of evolved through the AD ranks, and basically just started at small schools and worked up to a little bigger, to a little bigger. And this is by far my biggest school. We have about 1,450 students, 9 through 12. Part of a multi-high school district, just two schools here. So that's the first time I've had that experience as well. Up until now, it's been a single high school town. So yeah, just learn different things along the way. When you're at a little smaller school, you're in charge of everything. I think a colleague I've said they said AD stands for all duties after all day, all duties after dark. So
Yep.
something like that. So at smaller schools, it really is. You're sweeping the floor and doing all sorts of stuff. And even here at this big school, if we don't have someone to take tickets, you're out there doing that. If someone gets sick and can't do the scoreboard, guess who gets to do that? So you learned a lot of things along the way, and that's kind of progressed through. This is my fifth stop, different school in the education area, and yeah, just learn a little bit more as you go, and apply that to the next school you go to.
Uh, it's that's such a great observation that you learn along the way, along the journey. You learn things you want to hang on to. You learn things. I'm not going to try this one again.
That's right.
Um, can you look and you also steal things
Yeah,
that you see other ADs doing or that they share with you, and then tweak it to make it your own? Can
right.
you look back at some of those early stops at some really cool things, maybe that particular school did or that you were able to create with kids and coaches that you
Yeah.
brought with you now to your current stop at Dubuque High School?
Yeah, I guess one kind of in the middle, and like you said, I don't. Sometimes I say I don't have an original idea in my head. Take someone else's, and I have the ability to kind of tweak it or manipulate it a little bit for whatever I need it for. But yeah, the AD world is beg, borrow, and steal ideas from everybody else and make it twist it so however it works for you. But I think one of those places is that Hall of Fame thing that I talked about. The last school I was at in Illinois, Stanford Olympia was that school. It had an existing Hall of Fame. And when we decided to come back to Iowa, that idea may have got me the job I got in DeWitt because in my interview, I had a portfolio and I had some documents in about this Hall of Fame. Well, I didn't know at the time they were talking about a Hall of Fame. So even after I interviewed, I verbally accepted that job to come back to Iowa. They asked for all the documents for the Hall of Fame from the current school I was at. And for me, the Hall of Fame, and so we established the Hall of Fame there. There was one here in Dubuque Senior as well. But the Hall of Fame, even though I didn't graduate from Dubuque Senior or I didn't graduate from Central DeWitt or Stanford Olympia, that's a really great process for me that I learned so much history about the school district I'm working at. Here at Dubuque Senior, it's been in existence since 1858. And so it has a huge history, a long history. Again, we mentioned we've got the first Heisman Trophy winner at our school district, and we have different. Johnny Orr used to be a basketball coach at Iowa State, Michigan State before that. Well, he was a basketball coach at Dubuque Senior before all of that stuff happened. So in Iowa, people know Johnny Orr. He's been passed away now, but they know him from his antics on the sidelines for the Iowa State Cyclones. But people here know him about the antics he had at Dubuque Senior back in the 50s. So just a rich history, and it's fun to research and honor these people and just learn so much about the different people that came through the school. So the Hall of Fame thing, I think, has been the biggest caveat for me to just be a part of. And again, in only one of those stops did I help initiate the Hall of Fame. Two of them, they already existed, but I hope we did things that left them in better shape and continue here that we continue to honor those people that did such great things in the past and currently.
Yeah, you also bring up a great point. As people move through their careers, um, you don't know what is going to impact that person in the interview, whether it's the superintendent,
Mhm.
the coach, a community member. And so gathering those experiences and again, shameless self-promotion, adding to your toolbox,
That's right.
it really can pay off in ways that you never would have dreamed of. Um, let's talk interviews for a second because you've
Mhm.
had a few.
Mhm.
What are some ways, and what you just shared was fantastic, but what are some ways or things that you try to focus on to sell yourself? We always say, hey, once you get the interview, now it's on you. Okay.
Mhm.
Your references can't help you. How do you sell yourself in that interview situation?
I think I've had enough interviews that A, you didn't get, or B, that you did get, and you wonder why, like we just said. I think the biggest thing is now, and again, we're a little older, so we can experience this through wisdom, uh, is to just be yourself. I mean, the interview is a two-way street. The people on the other side of the table or the other part of the room, they're asking questions and they have things in their mind that they want. You have things, you know what you're capable of, and so you want to share those things. And the main thing is to just to try and relax and be yourself. And like I said, that Hall of Fame piece, that probably played bigger role than I knew at the time. That I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of had that in my portfolio. And, when I came to Dubuque Senior, back in my back portfolio, I had a picture of my family at the time. And, you can kind of always know when they get to the picture because someone will be like, oh, look at that. Look at those kids. And maybe, a lot of the other administrators all had kids my age. I didn't know that when I put in to come interview at Dubuque Senior. And I got the job and we grew together and our kids grew up together and things like that. So I think the biggest thing is just be yourself because you don't want to promote yourself as something you're not. Because if you get there and say, this isn't what we got in the interview. I mean, we've probably all interviewed coaches that we've had some experiences like that. It's like, well, that's not the person I interviewed. And then so just be yourself, because we have certain things that, as when I interview someone for a coaching job, that we're looking for. And if that person doesn't have it, that's okay. That's who you are. But we have certain things we're looking for. So when you go in for an AD job or any job for that matter, just be yourself. And sometimes it's okay to say, man, I don't have any experience in that area, or I'd love to learn about it, to learn more about it, things like that. So I think it's just tell your true story, and if it works out, if that's what they're looking for, then it's going to happen. And if not, there'll be another opportunity next time for whatever you're looking for.
Oh, absolutely. Great advice. That was probably a 2-minute master class right there on how to interview. Let's go and take another break. Our guest again is Brent Cook. He's a certified master athletic administrator, and he's the AD at Dubuque Senior High School in Dubuque, Iowa. We're coming back with more, so please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our friends at Home Campus for their support. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results, communication. Their student athlete eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the price. To get started, just go to homecampus.com. That's it. Don't forget to mention the podcast, homecampus.com. We also want to thank our friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Coaches loved it, parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. It's snapraise.com. And we want to say thank you to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com.
Yeah, we use Huddle here in the state of Iowa for several sports. We have mandated football and men's and women's basketball uploads. So we've foregone the trading of tapes and all of those things that we used to do back in the VHS era. So we have a statewide pool where everyone in football, as an example, in our class, we're in 5A, the biggest class. So we upload every week, and then it, of course, can download our opponents as we go through. So it's a requirement that your video is up usually within 24 hours of the game. And then again, once you upload your own video, you have access to the other ones that have been put up since then. So we love Huddle. We've gotten the full all of our sports have access to it. Some of the sports like the basketballs and volleyball do the stats return. We get them breaking down our tapes and telling us all the stats. So that's awesome tool for our coaches. Saves so much time for that aspect. And so they've gotten used to that. I had a coach way back when it was just football. Our men's basketball coach is old school. He loves sending scouts. And I think those scouts love to go because they got a mileage check and a meal check out of it. I don't know. So, but our school was happy to see that. And so he finally jumped on board, and he's one of our biggest supporters of it. I mean, this is, 10 years ago or something, but he was our person we had to convince. And once he went to it, it was awesome. So we enjoy Huddle and everything it offers. And even the sports that don't have to trade tapes like wrestling or soccer, the kids use it for making highlight tapes of if they want to go on to colleges and pursue other things beyond the high school level. So we utilize Huddle's tools a great deal here.
Oh, again, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I was the same way. I was sold on Huddle for years because I used it as a football coach. When I
Mhm.
became an AD, I was a little worried if the other coaches would like it. And you're absolutely right. They just loved it. I say this all the time. Our volleyball coach, our basketball coaches, they'd be in the gym with their cell phones, programming the focus cameras because they wanted to tape practice. And you talk about the highlight tapes. Of course, we want to help kids get to that next level. But for the 94% that don't go on to college, they can create a highlight tape that they can take with them for the rest of their lives and, remember all the great experiences they had.
That's
Great
right.
stuff. Thanks for sharing.
Yep.
For our listeners, we're visiting today with Brent Cook. He's the director of athletics at Dubuque Senior High School. Brent, I want to, kind of put you on the spot here. You and I were talking. You do some great things with your kids, your coaches, your program. What are some things you can share with our listeners that you do at Dubuque that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, I think again, this is a new experience for me being in a multi-high school district. So, a couple things that have kind of come along with that is we have a shared football field. Well, shared football fields are behind my school, and so I have become the pro facto. If there's anything wrong with the field or the scoreboard or the track stuff, I've kind of been that person. And then we have a shared pool, which happens to be at the other school. So, but somehow, if it has to do with the scoreboard, I'm still in charge of that over there too. But I think one of our biggest things, and I mentioned earlier that this school, the school, Dubuque Senior, has been in existence since 1858. The building, original building here, has been since 1922 or 23. And so that has some unique situations with it. It's built with limestone. It looks like a castle. We call it the castle. Unfortunately, other people call it the prison because a prison in Anamosa, which is 30 miles away, is built with the same limestone. That's the only correlation. But we've recently had several, two rounds of facility upgrades. And so our football stadium was redone, and it was redone to look like the old limestone, even though limestone wasn't used everywhere. And then we added a new gym and we've refurbished everything. And fortunately now it's all air conditioned. So we until then we did not have an air conditioned high school, which for people in Florida, that's probably hard unusual to hear because that probably does not happen down there. In Iowa, there's still a lot of schools that don't have air conditioning. But so I think recently these facility upgrades that we've been able to do for our kids and for not just our kids, but the Hempstead School as well, that we've been able to make things come into a little more modern context. We still have a couple of fields to go, baseball and softball between the two districts. We could probably do some upgrading there, but we've been able to do something for our kids to have a better experience. Our auditorium, again, which was over 100 years old, was totally renovated to a new, more modern auditorium, and they just love that. And the other school had some upgrades like that as well. So those are kind of facility things, I guess. But overall, I think the thing that I like to do, or I feel like I do, is I give our coaches the freedom to be the coaches of their programs. When people, if you get a concern from a parent and he's like, well, and I tell the coach, I'm like, if I wanted to be the cross country coach, I'd be the cross country coach. I'm the athletic director. So my job is to help them be more productive so that they can concentrate on the fun stuff, the being with the kids and making progress with kids and in their different programs. And I do that. And so I even more than people recognize, I probably am in the background more than others sometimes because I want them to get the rewards of being in charge of their programs. And of course, when my kids were in cross country, I was the one. I was the anonymous sponsor of the posters and some of those things. But when my kids were in programs, but my biggest goal is to let them be coaches and give them help them with things so that they can concentrate on being the X's and O's coach and making relationships with kids so they don't have to worry about the other things.
I love it. Let's talk about coaches for a minute. I think one thing that athletic directors really love to do, but sometimes it's a challenge with funding or time and resources.
Mhm.
What are some things that you do in the area of professional development for your coaches? What are some things that you do at Dubuque?
Yeah, we're actually in a little bit of a quandary right now with that. Up until about 2 years ago, I'd say, we were able to send coaches to like the track and field coaches clinic here in the state. And Iowa has a good, even though it's a small state, has a very good access to different sports and different coaches associations within the state. So we've been able to send them and use our fundraising money, not our budget money, but our fundraising money that each program does individually to send our coaches there. Well, and so we've been able to utilize that. Sometimes they might go to Chicago. We're only 3 hours from Chicago here in Dubuque. We're right on the eastern edge of the state. So it's as close to Chicago as we are to our capital, Des Moines. So sometimes it's easier to go out of state. But we've run into a little trouble with how the IRS or the auditors view how we can use our money. So we've actually been the last 2 years been squandered with or stymied, excuse me, with being able to send our coaches places. So there's some of them are still going, but it's on their own dime. And so we're trying to navigate that now to be able to get that back to where it was before, where they have these opportunities to do that. In the meantime, we can try to offer or try to get things, like virtual things for our coaches, but like NFHS Learn, some of those things that we use for like concussion and sportsmanships and things like that, but also learning about their sports individually. But so we're in a tough spot right now. Not everybody in Iowa has experienced that, so I think it depends on who your auditor is and what they tell you every time they come to review your books. But right now we're kind of we're trying to work through that ourselves. But in the past, we've been able to send them, if it's a head coach, they would get 2 professional development days and up to about $100 for registration, however they wanted to use it, whether it's registration or for the hotel or food or whatever. And then if you were an assistant coach, you got 1 day of professional leave. So if you happen to have a head coach who was a head coach in 2 sports, like my golf coach, he actually is girls golf and boys golf. Those are in 2 different seasons in Iowa. So he got 4 professional development days that he could use. He still gets the days. We just the financial aspects of it, we haven't been able to utilize lately. So we're a little behind the 8 ball on that, but we're trying to troubleshoot that and see how we can do that better to get them back to getting good professional development.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. It's so valuable, and it's another one of those things. The small investment, and if you don't have the money, it might not seem small, but that
Right.
small financial investment just pays huge, huge rewards and dividends down the road.
Yep.
Brent, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit, find out how you do some of the things you do at Dubuque, or just add you to their network. What's the
Yep.
best way that they can connect with Brent Cook?
Yeah. Well, the easy email is bcook, BCOOK, at dbqschools.org. That's the email. I also have Twitter out there. Dubuque Senior Rams is the Twitter handle. But again, that we're using that mostly to recognize our kids and things like that. But those are probably 2 of the easiest ways. Um, um, and yeah, just shoot an email and you find out about different things. Like I've talked about Hall of Fame, and when I came here, and some people want to start a Hall of Fame. I've had multiple conversations with people on that, and I had a colleague in Iowa. He did a Hall of Fame project for his CMAA project, and so I met with him, for 3 or 4 hours to talk about how mine was set up and how he wanted to do it. And ultimately, he did that project, and he got a CMAA based on that. So always happy to share ideas like that. Like I said, I begged, borrowed, and stealed from someone else anyway. So if it just means changing the name at the top of the paper, that's
Yeah.
feel free to go about it. That's for sure.
No, absolutely. I was on certification for a number of years and had the pleasure of um, listening to, seeing
Yep.
presentations on Hall of Fames. Great stuff.
Yep. Yep.
We're going to take another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we are going to come back with more. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant AD, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while he was earning his master's degree, he also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. To get started, just go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We want to thank our good friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. And we want to thank Hometown Ticketing. Hometown's the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. And if you go to hometownticketing.com, their team is going to show you how to set up and sell tickets, not just for your athletic events, but things like school plays and concerts, school dances, even graduation. And here's the best part: every school gets assigned a dedicated client success manager to provide hands on support every step of the way. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com to get started. It's digital ticketing that offers more. Hometownticketing.com.
Yeah, we use hometown ticketing here in the state of Iowa. As I mentioned earlier, we have the unique situation of summer sports. Well, the other unique thing about Iowa is we have two different athletic associations, one for girls sports and one for boys sports. And technically speaking, we have one for speech and one for music as well. So we have four, but in terms of sports, we have two. Well, the Boys Athletic Association, the Iowa High School Athletic Association, has partnered with Hometown Ticketing for all of their postseason ticketing needs. So every time we host a boys tournament event on behalf of the Athletic Association, Hometown Ticketing is the way we go. And we found that not having a cash box at the door is awesome. There's no when you're done, you're done. You hit the we're done, we unplug, and we walk in the office. So there's no counting of money. Being able to look up, someone says, "Well, I bought a ticket and now I can't find it." You can scan through Hometown Ticketing and find them and activate it for them. So it's really been useful there. And then we made the switch in our concession stands as well to now start allowing credit card purchases. We still take cash there too, but doing online ticketing has certainly changed that. And we use hometown ticketing for the Iowa High School Athletic Association during their events. So we find it really useful. And like I said, there's no countdown at the beginning. There's no counting at the beginning. There's no counting at the end of the cash, and everything's goes really well. And our ticket takers really appreciate it.
Well, once again, Brent, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I've heard that again and again from athletic directors that it's so easy to use and it's such, I guess, a non-stressor to not
Yep.
have that cash box there anymore. And, using it for concessions and wow, just a great use of technology. Very cool stuff. Again, for our listeners, our guest today is Brent Cook. He's a certified master athletic administrator, longtime AD in the state of Iowa. Brent, we mentioned you're a CMAA. That doesn't happen by accident. We get a lot of new ADs, younger ADs that listen to the podcast, and I think it's valuable for them to hear about the journey that we all take with our state association and with the NIAAA. Can you kind of share your journey? How'd you first hear about the Iowa Association? How'd you get involved with the NIAAA?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really started for me in Illinois when I was an AD there, and it was my last stop in Illinois. I replaced an AD who had a CAA, and at that point, I didn't really know what that was, what it meant. And so when I took over for him, I did a little more looking into the Illinois AD Association, found out about these courses, and that's when I really started going to state conventions first in Illinois for those 3 years that I was at that school, and then that transferred over with me. So before I left Illinois, I had an RAA, which is just a couple courses, and that's basically it, a couple courses, and that's you're an AD. Not difficult to get that one. And then I had sat for the CAA exam right before I left Illinois. So I came into Iowa as a certified athletic administrator way back in 2002. And so then I parlayed that. I took a chance at my new school to say, "Hey, I'd really like to go to these national conventions, and use that leadership training portion as my tool or my hook to convince the superintendent at the time." Well, my superintendent at the time came back and was like, "Yeah, I'll tell the board that you don't really know what you're doing and you need to go to this convention." So, well, even though he kind of said it that way, he did pay for it, and I was able to go. And so because I didn't know how long that would last, I took 4 LTI courses at that first convention. It was down, I think it was San Antonio, And that's back when those courses had 4-inch binders to bring home with you. And that added another suitcase, I think, when I came home. But and then I was fortunate the next couple of years. I continued to go to my Iowa AD Association, taking courses there when I was able, going to a couple more NIAAA conferences, loading up on courses. Drove over to Indiana for a couple summer retreats of time or two. Because basically, I just saw it as an opportunity for my own personal professional development. Because I wanted to be better at my job. These courses are great tools for all of us to learn more. And they were big, thick binders before. Now they're the little teeny ones, and sometimes on zip drives and discs. But the information you get is not only what you get in the course, but the colleagues and your friends in the room where you learn that they're doing something, and oh yeah, that's interesting. Can I try something like that there? And unfortunately, the legal courses is where you learn like, oh, I'm afraid to go back to work because I think I'm doing all of these things that we shouldn't be doing. Uh, but it led me along a journey of a professional development for myself personally because I felt that was important to continue to be better. I'd gotten a master's degree. I had no desire to get a doctorate degree or to continue on to be a principal. And so I wanted to do those things to get better at the job I was doing. So I was fortunate to get involved at my state level as an assistant leadership training coordinator with Jim Gephardt from Iowa. He was the guy that had started it here and did that for a couple of years. Then I got elected to the AD Association president's chairs, and so I was second VP, first VP, and president. And from that, I got involved at the NIAAA level on the publications committee, which is a workhorse of that committee making the IAA magazine. That's a bunch of great, talented people there, and have been fortunate to serve on this conference advisory committee as well. And most recently, I've been asked, and I'm serving currently on the NIAAA board of directors. So all of those things, kind of like my job, where I went from one stop to another to get a little bit more, and learn a little bit more. Kind of the same thing here. I've taken these courses, grown as an athletic director, been able to share that by teaching classes to other ADs, and then that's put me in positions to serve the NIAAA at the national level too. And it's been a great opportunity for me to do that. So always encourage younger people, just get involved with your state first, if nothing else. And then, take some courses to get certified. Hopefully, in Iowa, we have two different associations, as I mentioned. Both are giving out the AD Association and our Girls Union are sending ADs to the national conventions on scholarships, trying to promote female athletic directors to get better as well, and ADs as well across the state. So take that opportunity if you have it in your state. Try and, again, whether it's a state convention, whether it's a sectional convention or a national convention, just the camaraderie and networking that's there is if nothing else is a tremendous asset to us as ADs.
Wow. Great breakdown. And the last point that you mentioned, get involved. If you're at that state conference or your national conference and you're going, wow, I'd love to, teach a course, or I'd love to be an officer or a board member. Hey, take that step, introduce yourself to people,
Mhm.
get involved, volunteer to serve on committees. That's how you begin that journey. And going back to your discussion about the LTIs, um, you're right. The courses are just fantastic on their own. Great information, great resources. But I would say, just as valuable is sitting at those tables with all the other ADs from different parts of the country and building your network and just those
Mhm.
casual conversations or intentional conversations. Hey,
Mhm.
how do you do this? How do you, whether it's coaches, kids, parents, fundraising, um, those are the types of conversations that can really pay off. My very first NIAAA conference, a conversation at a table gave me an idea. I go, wow, that's a great idea. That turned into my CMAA project a couple of years later. So,
Yeah, yeah,
great stuff. Can
yeah,
you think back to one of those early courses? And I'm going to ask you to eliminate the legal courses because those always stick out. But
yeah,
can
yeah.
you think back to a course that you were taking that you're just, wow, this is cool stuff. I can't wait to take it back to my school. Anyone stick out for you? Yeah, and you don't have to remember the number, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me go a different place first. One is when I mentioned the Indiana summer retreat, I was over there with a good friend, John Van Fleet from Illinois, who has since passed away, sadly. But we were taking some courses, and this one stuck out of my mind. It was Curb Appeal, I'm pretty sure was the name of the course, but it was being taught by Frank Kovaleski. He was at the time the executive director of the NIAAA. And so that one sticks out not about the content of the course, but that the executive director is teaching us a course. And that sticks out because he's an AD too. He was an AD and worked at the NFHS first, I think, but just that we're all the same people. While where I'm the board of directors, I'm fortunate for that, or Phil Risen or anybody else. We're all from the same group of people, the men and women that are ADs in the trenches doing it every day. So that one sticks out me because of who was teaching the class. But the other parts are too, probably more like instructors too. And um, now I've forgotten his name. The guy from Wisconsin that taught John Olson.
Mm.
That guy is a legend up in there and of all the LTI courses. But I think the one of the big ones is just again taking away just some bits of information like the public address one or the curb appeal. I think really probably do use the curb appeal to say, I say to my coaches, to my staff, and to the custodians of like when people come into our building, the first thing they see is is important, or our parking lot is important. We can't have it overrun with trash because that's the first impression we're making on our guests. And that's what they are. They're guests to our building. So we try to promote, that to take pride in what we're doing, and whether that's cleaning up the bleachers, whether that's having signage and telling people where to go. Again, I'm in an old building. We have addition after addition after addition, and so people come in. It's like I graduated here, but I can't find my way around this building at all. And so it's important to have signs to tell people where the restrooms are, to tell them where the exits are, things like that. So that class probably sticks out for some of them, but yeah, just learning something that you can go back and make your building, your job something better, something easier. It requires a little work sometimes to implement, but overall, you're looking for a better experience for your kids, for your coaches, for your families, and for the guests that come to our building.
Yeah. Well, you're right. That curb appeal course, I think people probably use that as much as any of the courses when they get back to their school. And just a great transition into our final segment. This has been so cool. You and I met at this year's national conference, and
Yep.
just I immediately knew just in 30 seconds, why haven't I had this guy on my podcast before? But our final segment is the athletic director's toolbox. You certainly shared your wisdom and your knowledge of being an AD, but we're going to take our final break. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 tools in their toolbox. So let's hear from Athletic Surveys who sponsor this. And when we come back, we're going to see what Brent Cook puts into his new athletic director toolbox. We want to thank Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. At my school, we use surveys for just about everything: kids, coaches, parents. And here's the cool thing: the information that came back was almost always over the top positive, and it'll be the same for you. And having that data was incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent or student athlete, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. The other thing about the surveys is that you'll get to hear from the people you already hear from, those squeaky wheel parents. But it lets you hear about their concerns, hopefully address them, and keep them from turning into something big. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. Welcome back. It's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Brent Cook, tremendous background in athletics and the AD at Dubuque Senior High School. But right now, I'm going to task him with sending out a brand new AD on their first job, but I'm only going to let him put 3 items in their toolbox. So, Brent, what 3 things are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
I think for me, and this is stuff that I learned again over my years, is they're kind of the same thing, but we'll say they're two. An email or phone list of colleagues in your area and in your state. I think I've learned the hard way, probably through experience, that when you become an AD, you think you're the only AD that exists. Well, you're the only AD that usually exists in your school if you're at a single high school situation. Bigger schools might have assistant ADs, or in my case now, I have a colleague across town. So I think for a new AD, and I just had a former coach just this year leave here and is now a first-time AD at a school in Iowa, is coming and we have now implemented a mentorship a very extensive mentorship program with the Iowa High School Athletic Directors Association. So if you don't have that, find out who the people are in your conference, who they are in your area, maybe if it's a big school district, your school district, because those are the people you can call. Because chances are, unless they're a brand new AD, they've experienced something very similar to what you might be going through. So it's just an important thing for your own mental health and well-being to find someone that you can talk to talk through problems. Not that your current administration or your building administration is a bad person to talk to, but an AD has been in the job, has done those things. That's a very important reach out, I think. And so that'd be the first thing I'd done. And I would say, and again, this former coach and teacher of ours, we've talked a few times, but he's connected with a retired AD up in his area. They meet, they're meeting 3 or 4 times a year in person, maybe even more. And trying to provide a network to keep people in the job longer. Like I mentioned, I've been at it for a while, and I said maybe 5 years is probably an average, maybe nationally, but at least in Iowa, we're going through 60 to 70 new ADs a year at our new AD workshop that we have in the state of Iowa. So we're looking to have that number go down by keeping people in the job. And so creating a network, again, initially just on your own, trying to find those people you can talk to. My first question from the guy that left my job, his name was Keith. He was concerned because the baseball softball assigner wanted to have next year's schedule in July for next year. And I said, he goes, I don't even know what my schedule is. I said, well, first thing is reach out to somebody in your conference to see, is this year one or year two of the schedule? If it's year one, you're just flipping home and away. So that would give you a good idea of where to start. So just that type of thing, knowing who to call, and he knew to call me, and I tried to give him some ideas, but I'm not in his area of the state. So I'm like, here's who you should try to connect with. So I think that's really a big part of it, just knowing where to reach out and who to contact. And then the other part is get involved with the state, whether it's just attending the state convention. Again, just that the networking is so important, but what you learn in a mini session, maybe a class or two that you might take is important to keep growing at what you're doing. Give yourself some tools from these resources that we have so that you can be more successful and not feel like you have to reinvent the wheel every time something happens.
Well, I love them both. I'm going to have that colleagues and networking in one category and the state association in another
Yep.
category. So you still have a third one to give us, or a fourth. So what else is going into that toolbox?
I think, and I've learned this the wrong way as well. If we could see below the waist, I'm drinking iced tea because my doctor says Mountain Dew is no good anymore. So I need to get off the sugar. Is having a plan to to do things for yourself. This job can wear you down. There are times when we work 60 or 70 or 80 hours a week because there's a lot of things going on. Monday night, we had a girls wrestling tournament. I was here from 7 a.m. till 9:30 p.m. That's not totally unusual for an AD. But sometimes you have weeks where you have 2 or 3 events like that, and that takes a toll on your body and on your mind and on your family. Is to have a plan on what you're going to do to release stress, to whether that's going for walks, creating family time, getting together with coaches or other teachers, or again, just because, some people think, well, you're an administrator now, I can't talk to you anymore. Well, wait, we just taught with each other just last year across the hall from each other or something. So just don't lose that. Make time for yourself, make time for your family. And that's probably the biggest advice when I talk to people, hey, I'm thinking about becoming an AD. And the first thing I say, and again, I've probably learned the hard way because I got my job by saying my dad was an AD. I didn't talk to my wife like I should have, is you need to check with your family first. Is if you're a man is and you're married or whoever it is, have you checked with your spouse? Have you checked with your partner? Have you talked about what this means? You know, some of them are head coaches, and I said, "What's your busiest season?" Well, the year I'm a head coach in track. Okay, take that season, multiply by four. That's what it is all year long, as to be an AD. And I said, so you need to know that, but your family needs to know that. And do you have the tools to help you navigate that? Because that's again, I learned the hard way probably, and I'm thankful my wife is was as good as she is because she deserved better through some of those years where she was at home with all the kids and I wasn't around. So it's an important step to make sure you know what you're getting into and knowing that you have some supports to help you guide through those tough days.
You are absolutely right. And that's one of the tools that I will share when I speak to ADs or coaches is, make sure it's not work-life balance. If it's a balance, you're going to get fired because you
Right.
got to put the hours in
Yeah.
at your job. But make sure it's a compromise that you and your family can live with. Okay.
Yep.
Don't neglect the most important part of your life,
Right.
being with the family.
Yeah.
Brent, thanks again for taking time out of your busy day during the school day
Yeah.
to visit with us and share with our listeners. One more time, one of our listeners wants to reach out and connect with you. And listeners, you got a tremendous resource here. What's the best way they can get a hold of Brent Cook?
Absolutely. Yeah. Probably best way is email, and that's bcook, BCOOK at dbqschools.org.
Well, Brent, thanks again. All the best moving forward in 2025. And
Absolutely.
hopefully it's not going to be all the way till December and the national conference in Tampa. Hopefully we
Absolutely.
can cross paths, get together, and maybe share a beverage.
Absolutely. Always a good thing. Absolutely. Thank
For
you,
our
Jake.
listeners, we want to say thanks to you and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories along with best practices. So come back and join us again for the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast.